Hello, denizens of the internet, welcome. Your former network executive reaction to Disney's Little Mermaid, the live action version. There will be spoilers. Now, there is a ton of CG in this, but at least more live action than the Lion King remake, which everyone called live action. So, denizens, you know, I like to review these entertainments from multiple perspectives. As an entertainment executive, well, a former one, a writer, and as a moviegoer, and sometimes these three things just do not mesh. That's the case with this movie. From an exec perspective, all these live-action remakes of beloved old properties has more to do with keeping the intellectual property in Disney's hands than anything else. The fact that they have been very lucrative is just icing on the cake. No one talks as fondly about the live-action Beauty and the Beast as they do of the original animated one, but the live-action version made more than $1 billion. From that perspective, everyone has to stop asking why Disney is making these horrible remakes. I'm going to skip the writing because there really wasn't much new in it. It hit the beats. As a moviegoer, I'm of two minds. If I had taken my 3-year-old daughter to this, well, when she was 3, I'm pretty sure she would have loved it. The audience I saw it with loved it. The movie is marginal at best. But then again, I had to take my daughter to see Barney 3 times live. She loved Barney. When criticizing this movie, I really have to take into consideration who this movie is for, and the target audience will not notice its shortcomings. They might notice its length, but I really tried hard not to compare it to Goodfellas, which I am certain my 3-year-old daughter would not have liked. So, let's get to it. Overall, the movie was not as bad as I anticipated, but the schizophrenic production design and added length, I thought, hurt it. If the Disney brand was not so damaged, this inoffensive cupcake would easily hit $1 billion, I think. Now, I'm not so sure. But the movie does not stink, and it sticks the romantic landing. The main thing it got right was the relationship between Ariel and Eric. Notwithstanding the fact that Halle Bailey is a terrible actress, she's marginally good when she has something to say, but during the parts where she is mute, you could easily have substituted a store mannequin or a Tootsie Roll Pop. What she did do well was cute her way through, and it was just enough because Eric, played by Jonah Hauer-King, was just so damn good. In fact, I think he saved the movie. The 3D is a confused mess. There were good parts and bad. One of the things that really irritated me was the fantastic, impossible camera movements that you can only do in 3D. If you ever wondered why Pixar animation seemed so real, even though it was animated, it's because they followed filmmaking conventions and we just sensed that. Another thing that took me out of what little magic there was in the movie was that while the underwater CG hair work was actually pretty cool, especially Javier Bardem, King Triton, whenever they poked their heads out of the water, they looked like drowned rodents. Ultimately, what lets this movie down is the production design. The advantage that the original animated movie had was that it all looked of a kind. They didn't do rotoscope animation in the ocean and then Chuck Jones animation on land. It was cohesive, and this is not as easy to do in a live adaptation. I'm certain when they planned this Little Mermaid, they must have argued over just how stylized the underwater segments should have been. On one hand, from a coherent visualization perspective, the underwater sequences needed to look more realistic, like what we have seen and are used to in National Geographic documentaries on Australia's coral reefs or the latest Avatar. They needed to have James Cameron do the underwater stuff. Apart from looking a bit too much like pasted on faces, Ariel and King Triton were not badly realized, but their environment shifted from Jacques Cousteau real to extreme stylized. And with the work on land, it just didn't mesh. It was as if they couldn't decide how faithful it needed to be to the original animated version. This indecisiveness was evident, and I thought hurt the movie. Once again, is this something a child who has never seen the original would care about? I don't think so. Should Ursula have been more realistically octopus-like? Because Ariel did look quite fishy. I think so. What was up with the disco-light tentacles? A huge squishy octopus with Melissa McCarthy's face would have been way more frightening. I should add that McCarthy was great as Ursula. Maybe realism was what they wanted to avoid, but they clearly couldn't decide during the big musical number in the first half hour, where in the original animated version they had sea creatures playing instruments. Here they had Ariel riding marching sea turtles. It wasn't very magical. When Triton comes out of the water to talk to Ariel, he needed to rise up majestically, more like a dolphin at SeaWorld, to show his power. Instead, it looked like Bardem was freezing his ass off during the shoot and could hardly wait to get out. Maybe he couldn't swim. I don't know. It looked horrible. It was just not very Triton-y. And the end sequence with the merfolk lounging around looked ridiculous. They should have been swimming about and jumping like dolphins, a callback to the opening sequence. This looked like a gay resort at Negril. I think it will do much better at the box office, domestically, at least, than Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania, only because Little Mermaid made more sense. It's not a complicated movie. And I was glad that Ariel and Eric did hook up at the end. I had heard a rumor that Ariel would go it alone in that now popular woke mind virus infecting Disney where women don't need no man. The only thing I will say about the diversity controversy is that it made The Little Mermaid look more like a grade school production of Ulysses, where everyone in the class gets to participate. If you have a little girly girl, I would not hesitate taking her to this movie. It might just keep her quiet for 2 hours and 15 minutes. One final note, can we please stop giving Awkwafina parts? She's horrible. Till next time, denizens. Be seeing you.